What is going on, everyone? Welcome to PEBA Finals against TangelaBoots. This is the moment we have been waiting for, and it's been a long time coming since the start of the season. We're finally taking him on. We have been planning this since the start of the league. We helped each other with our drafts. We helped each other prepare throughout the season, and now it is time to be in finals against TangelaBoots, the person who took away our ABC championship, and we are out for some vengeance. So once again, this will be post commentary because I'm a dumb idiot and accidentally fucked up the live comm, but it's okay. I'm hyped and I'm ready to go, and I got some dope music on, and we're gonna be ready to go through this finals. So before I show the matchup or talk about anything, I do want to specifically talk about some shout outs. So first of all, huge shout out to Austrian George for helping me prepare the team and sitting down with me for hours to talk about the matchups, create calcs, create the most intricate EV spreads possible. In this matchup, it was completely so useful and helpful, and I really appreciate him for it. And honestly, I can't be happier to be working with anyone else. He's such a smart guy. He's so good at this game, and I'm so appreciative of all his help that he gave me. So thank you to him. Also thank you to other people who helped me within mocks and other things such as Hacker Killer, Raditaman, Dr. Slacking, Blind Messiah, Tony. I'm probably missing just a few people, and I'm so sorry. I mocked with so many people, and I got words of advice from so many different people that, I mean, just major thank you to anyone who's rooting for me. I really appreciate it, and am super honored to have such a great group of friends who, you know, are cheering for me in this finals, knowing that it means a lot to me, knowing that I've worked my ass off to really finally win a league, and this is something that I want to do. This is something that I had to put my mind to, and I am really thankful of everyone who helped out. My other shout out obviously goes to the one guy for running such a fantastic league. PEBA was such a fun time for me, and everyone in the community was amazing, fantastic, and honestly such a great person to run a league. Elliot is, I'm happy to call him a friend, and he's really he made this league fantastic. What an amazing commissioner. I can't wait for any of his future endeavors in this community, whether it be PEBA Season 4 or anything else. I'm super excited for Elliot, and I'm just really thankful. Obviously, the league's founder, 2-Bit Crow, thank you for creating this atmosphere in the first place. And anyone else who I haven't thanked, I'm so sorry, but just anyone who's supported me, anyone who's been watching the videos, thank you so much. So there we go. All of my opponents who I had in PEBA as well, amazing, fantastic games. There wasn't a single game I didn't enjoy, so thank you. This is the matchup. We got Garchomp, Mega Scizor, Togekiss, Jolteon, Miltank, Suicune, Bronzong, Azelf, Scrafty, Roserade, and Entei. Now, I originally had Vaporeon and Personal Lola by week 9. This was the matchup I was looking at, and I said, you know what? This is a situation where, one, I need Scrafty to scare things like Snorlax. I can't let him bring a Curslax set against me knowing that I have a Scrafty around, and even though it might not have the best matchup here, it will force him to prep in a very particular way that is going to be beneficial. It's also going to force him to be skeptical about bringing things like Alakazam, about Nihilego, things like that. So, Scrafty just visually helps out in terms of matchup and in terms of how TangelaBoots Troy has to prep for this matchup. So the other thing is Suicune. I got Suicune in my free agencies because I figured that Vaporeon actually had a pretty decent matchup against TangelaBoots, but didn't have a good matchup against anything else. And Suicune maintained that level of good matchup against TangelaBoots that Vaporeon also did as well. A Calm Mindset does sort of just run through him if he's not properly prepared. The other thing, too, is he has not been bringing Virizion. I don't know if he doesn't like it. I don't know what, but he has not been bringing Virizion, so that makes Suicune a little bit more potent, a little bit more scary. The Mons that you see have the little thing next to him on his team are the ones that I expected him to bring. Yes, those are 7, but I thought that though it was going to be 6 of those 7, I would have been pretty shocked if Nihilego or Virizion came. Nihilego just can't find the coverage against me. And then Lantern, I didn't think it had a great matchup. And then Credilli, I figured was the most likely out of those 4, but I figured other options were a little bit more prevalent. But between those 7, they all have their own niche matchup against me and are obviously very, very important for him. So I will get into essentially the final build for PEBA, and we will look at that build. So let's go. I have the looper on instead of team builder. I'm pathetic. I'm sorry. Okay, this entire team is built around Azelf. Austrian George and I, at first glance at TangelaBoots' team, saw, look, he has no dark type, which means Spec Psychic goes off on his team. There is nothing besides Scissor that does not get two-shotted by either Psychic or Psy Shock. I was going to say Slacking. Snorlax, Credilli both get two-shotted under the right conditions. And with the proper support, Scissor is not going to want to be switching in on this thing constantly. And even if it does, it frees up room for the rest of my team. So the rest of this team is going to be built around properly chipping everything, properly getting everything in range of Specs Azelf to go off and clean. This is not my only win condition, but is the one that I'm building my team around. And if this doesn't end up working, then I do have other failsafe options, as you will see. But the logical, most obvious thing I have to bring if I'm trying to get this spec set off is a Spikes Rose Raid. Now this is a Choice Scarf Rose Raid. Major shout out to Austrian George once again for sort of showing me the light of Rose Raid. I barely brought it during the main season, but in playoffs it has been absolutely crucial to getting up spikes, being a bulky Choice Scarf Mon that forces things out and scares things out with spikes. Now yes, this set can't touch Scissor, but I have infinite, or not infinite, but like every other Mon on my team handles Scissor. And I don't think I would be staying in on Scissor anyway, given Bullet Punch, etc. This thing is meant to take hits from Manaphy. This is my main answer to Manaphy. After +1, Leaf Storm is, and it's annihilating a Tail Glow Manaphy, anything like that. If he is Calm Mind, the prior damage taken from the rest of my Mons against him will essentially put it in Leaf Storm range. And worst case scenario, if Rose Raid is forced to take some damage, I am able to rest and get a natural cure off and preserve my bulkiness for later down the line. So yeah, Rose Raid is a very intricate EV spread. It's Scarf, but it's not a lot of speed. It's just there to outspeed Virizion, not any other sort of Scarfers. And then the rest is in bulk, and that is basically all there is to it. The special attack stat essentially OHKOs Virizion and handles numerous other threats as well on his team. So the idea is just to force things out, scare Gliscor with HP Ice, scare Rose Raid out, scare Altaria out, and get up free layers of spikes against this man. So that is the point of Rose Raid, and it'll put things in range of Azelf, but it'll make it so Scissor can't switch in on these Psychics, because after a round of spikes, Psychic is going to start two-shotting a Scissor switching in. So that is the point of Rose Raid. Now the next Mon is Entei. This is the weirdest EV spread I've ever brought to any game, but it works. I swear to God it works. So I'm going to go through each different part of it if I can. So it's max HP. The speed is to outspeed. I'm trying to remember now. I don't remember what's outspeed. That's kind of pathetic. Let's take a look at this. I'm pretty sure it's just like outspeeding like some Gliscor sets. And oh, it's outspeeding a max Scissor as well. But I think that's all I went towards. So it's outspeeding a max Scissor. The special attack investment guarantees HP Ice OHKOs. Two-hit KOs, Gliscors. The special defense is just bringing it back up to neutral. Instead of doing a neutral nature, you can do negative special defense and boosting in something else. Like you gain a like 2 more IVs or EVs based on that. During the actual game, this was 31. I don't know why Showdown changed it, but I guarantee you during the actual game it was 31. And then the attack investment is to guarantee Sacred Fire OHKOs Alakazam, guarantee it OHKOs Virizion, and the rest is just in defense and HP. So that is the weird Entei spread there, and I think it works out really well. So those were the main 3. It's not Fire, Water, Grass. It's just 3 Mons that I built this core around, and now we had to handle specific threats that existed. So yeah, the first fear that I had looking at this set of 3 was a Curse Snorlax, and I was debating between a couple things. I was actually thinking about Scrafty, I was thinking about a few other things, but ultimately George and I settled on a Curse Scissor. Even with Fire Punch, after 1 Curse, Fire Punch is doing less than 50%. If he is the Berry with Curse, Knockoff handles that well, because you can't recycle after a knockoff. Scissors also really nice in the event of a, just in case, a Dragon Dance Altaria, which I didn't think was too likely to come. I thought a defensive set was a little bit more likely, but in case he does get a Dragon Dance off, having that Bullet Punch in the back is going to be really nice. Now, even though this is meant to handle things like Snorlax in particular, this does get free setup on certain things like Gliscor. It gets free setup on a Altaria that does not have fire coverage. It gets free setup on other Scissor, on his regular Scissor, things along those lines. It's also really nice to handle things like Credilli, Nihilego, etc. Now, the one threat to this is Rotom Heat, and looking at it, Rotom Heat is a major threat in this situation. So we're going to have to handle it later on down the road. However, that being said, the goal is not to click Curse early on. The goal is to not reveal Curse and instead go for Knockoff, knowing that Rotom Heat is going to be switching in, getting rid of its leftovers, and whittling it down over time, and that is going to be incredibly crucial to beating that Rotom Heat. So, yes, that is the Scissor set, and hopefully it works out. It does have endgame sweeping potential, but its main shtick is to sort of be a mid-game cleaner. We'll see how it goes. So, Suicune is next. Like I said, it has good matchup. A Scald, Rest, Roar, Calm Mindset's really nice. It's basically Crocoon, but with Roar instead of Sleep Talk, because his best way to beat Suicune is to set up with his own mons. Roar helps out with that substantially. Yes, this cannot touch Credilli, but it's a risk I'm willing to take, and I do think a lot of my other mons beat Credilli as well. It is just max HP, max defense, nothing weird, nothing special, nothing crazy like that. The special defense is basically just to guarantee a +3 energy ball from full in case that Manaphy ever sets up. Sort of just a failsafe. The rest is in defense, nothing special. Roar is not only there to help out while it's because Suicune's main shtick isn't to sweep, it's to constantly bring things in on spikes damage, etc. But Calm Mind is just there to sort of force him to start switching, which will enable me to roar things out, etc. Now, barring Grass Knot, this sets up on things like Nihilego. It sets up on a few other things as well. Sets up on a Gliscor. Sets up on, frankly, a Scissor. Potentially a specially defensive, a defensive generally Mega Altaria. It can set up on like an AV Snorlax, although I don't think that's coming. The one thing it does have to be fearful of is Virizion, like I said. Rotom Heat as well, even though Scald will do a decent chunk to it, so will a Thunderbolt, so got to keep that in mind. And looking at these first 5, Rotom Heat is the biggest threat to my team. It is able to knock out my Azelf with Overheat, handle my Roserade with Overheat, handle Mega Scissor with Overheat, and while Suicune can Scald it, it's not ideal because Suicune doesn't want to take hard electric attacks. Entei is my best answer at this point, and it's really not an answer. All I can do to hit it is Toxic. I don't have any super effective coverage against it or anything like that. So Rotom is a huge problem for this team, and that is why, and that is why I am bringing Garchomp. So Garchomp is really nice here to set up rocks and honestly just force, it does a few things. One, it means that I have a ground type, which means that Rotom Heat cannot Volt Switch freely. That is great. It also means that with a Lumberry, in case he does predict anything, any sort of switch out and goes for a Will-O-Wisp, which I don't think he'll necessarily do, because I think that he might expect an Entei switch as well. But if he does, in case he wants to stay in a Will-O-Wisp my Garchomp, I will have the Lumberry. Now, this has Swords Dance, but it is not, its main purpose is not to be sweeping. Its main purpose is to be getting up rocks and dealing a ton of damage. And the things that want to switch in on Garchomp, like Gliscor, Scissor, Rotom Heat, don't want me to get to +2 because they will, because Garchomp will just kill them with Earthquake or Aqua Tail. Earthquake and Aqua Tail gets fantastic coverage against this team. His 2 best answers are Rotom Heat and Gliscor, both of which Aqua Tail hits super effectively. So I like to move Aqua Tail. I barely bring it, but like when I do, it feels cool. So we're going to get into the actual game. That was an intricate team builder, but it needed to be intricate. The speed is just outspeed Manaphy. Nothing special. That's about it. I'm going to change the music because this is getting a little bit hard. I don't actually know how to edit, so we get to do this manually. But I think this is the music I selected. Let's go. Let's go. There we go. Fucking Primal Dialga. There we fucking do it. Okay. This is the game. Here we are. Just want to make sure everything is going smoothly. Yes, it is. I hope. Yes, it is. Okay, great. I wish I had done that during the actual game, so the live comm hadn't corrupted, but is what it is. This is PEBA Finals against TangelaBoots, and I am ready. I am so excited going into this game. I am nervous. I am shaking. If I had the live comm, y'all would see that I was petrified. Although I was less nervous than I was in ABC Finals because I feel like I am not the underdog in this situation anymore. I have proven myself. I've had an undefeated season. This is not something that Troy has done. He's had a few losses along the way. This is something I put a ton of effort to, a ton of prep into. I've never prepped harder for a game in my life for this. So I'm ready. So let's get into the post-commentary of the finals. I'm so excited. So, he didn't end up bringing the Alakazam, which is a huge relief. In box, Alakazam was huge. As you can see, my only resist was Scissor, which didn't really want to be switching on an HP Fire or anything along those. Zamsor just took one a lot of the times in box, and I couldn't really do anything about it. So, really happy it didn't come. Another thing I'm happy to come is Nihilego. I made a strategic choice not to run Bulldoze on Entei, expecting Nihilego not to come. So knowing that that prediction paid off is really nice. The big shock here is that Manaphy is not here. Manaphy was a huge threat to my team. Calm Mind, Z-Rain Dance, anything along those lines scared the shit out of me. And looking at this team construction, I can tell that Troy wanted to take a more defensive approach. And I said this in my live comm. I said, Manaphy isn't here. This is really good for me, but it also means that Troy is going to try and make this a long, stally game. And it sort of already had my mind thinking, you know, this is a defensive Rotom, this is a defensive Gliscor, this is probably his generic specialty defensive Scissor set, this is either a Dragon Dancing Altaria or a thing with Hyper Voice and Flamethrower, and that was basically my thought process going into it. It's very clear that Credillia is here to set up rocks, so that's the other thing. But ultimately, I decide that the best lead of choice is going to end up being my, as you will see, my Entei. So, sorry. This is really nice for me because Rotom Heat is the biggest threat on this team now that Manaphy is not here. Rotom Heat scares the absolute shit out of me, so I want to get this thing toxic and on a timer immediately. Now, unfortunately, he does recognize this is the case and goes into Altaria and makes a fantastic play. So even though it is Mega first turn, he is able to use Altaria's Natural Cure to his advantage here to sponge a Toxic and probably switch out and get the Natural Cure off and not have to worry about it too much. And it's very obvious to me that he's doing this, and I opt to go into Roserade at the end because I think that if he's going to do anything, he's going to Earthquake. But Roserade does take an Earthquake pretty well and threaten out and is able to get Spikes up. But he ends up doubling into the Gliscor, which was a very good play on his part to get that Natural Cure off. I'm sort of shaking. I'm sort of nervous right now. I really wish I had stayed in with Entei and just hit HP Ice or something along those lines. I was very close to doing so, but I figured that the risk of him being some like Heal Bell or setup set was too strong for me to leave in my Entei on turn 2. So I opt to end up going into my Roserade, and here I opt to get up a layer of Spikes against him, thinking that I'm going to be threatening him out with a potential HP Ice, but he's really not scared of that HP Ice and opts to stay in, which is got me really scared because in every one of the mocks, everyone switched out into Credillia, into Rotom Heat, into potentially even Scissor or Snorlax, fearing an HP Ice. Troy did not do this, probably thinking that I was HP Fire instead. So he ends up going for the Earthquake, seeing that I'm bulky, which is really, really great for me. So here I go into Suicune, knowing that he can't really touch me, as he does go for the knockoff and gets rid of my leftovers. It's going to be annoying, but I do have Rest and Recovery. Now, Cordilli is such an obvious switch into this Suicune. So we are going to have to opt to make a double. We have to start making plays. We are a little bit on the back foot here, and we do make the correct read and go into Scissor. So that is fantastic. Now I have the momentum. He doesn't know that I don't have U-turn yet, but this is going to bait in Rotom and is going to let me knock off whatever item it brings in. He's definitely not going to bring in anything else. Anything else is just free curse setup for me, or free SD setup in his mind. So I am going to be able to knock off the leftovers, which is going to be huge, and it's going to help me out a ton. Now here I'm going to go into Garchomp, as he is going to go into Toxic. And Toxic is massive here, because this is going to mean that Garchomp is a bit more of a sustainable answer to Rotom Heat than I originally thought, because I thought it was just going to be sort of a one-time switch-in handle situation, but it turns out that he ran Toxic and not Will-O-Wisp, which was honestly really great for me, because it's going to mean that that Garchomp has the ability to set up on Rotom, or things along those lines. So I am going to threaten this Rotom out with a potential Stone Edge, anything along those lines, as he does opt to go into his Gliscor, and I do set up a Swords Dance on this, knowing that he was either staying in and attacking me and not killing me, and I was going to fire back with an Aqua Tail, or that he was going to switch out into something along the lines of Gliscor, or potentially even Scissor. I knew for a fact he was not going to go Altaria, because there was a pretty substantial risk that I had Stone Edge. So I am going to fire off the Aqua Tail here and just clean knock out the Gliscor with a critical hit. So this is unfortunate. It sucks. We talked about it. I'm not going to say what we talked about after the game, but I'll talk about sort of the hacks that mattered at the end of this situation, at the end of the game. But ultimately, even if he was defensive, it was still a roll. If he was just max HP, it was about a 50-50 roll, a little bit skewed in my favor without the crit. So it doesn't bother me too much. I did still apologize in the chat for it happening. The obviously reason why it does sort of suck is that it doesn't allow him to get a little bit more damage off on my Garchomp. That being said, there's a few things that could have happened here had I not crit and had I not taken him out. He could have just Earthquakes me, which would have done maybe 40% max, probably less in all honesty. Or he could have Ice Fanged me. And if he had Ice Fang, if he turned out to possibly have Ice Fang, then it meant that he was just going to immediately die from... It just meant that he was probably going to immediately die from Rough Skin. That's what I'm trying to say. So... it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. It's not like a game determining or anything like that. This is a long game, so couldn't really let it get in my head at this point. I do go into Entei. I would sort of want to start scouting what this Mega Altaria set is, and I think the best way to do that is to switch in. If he's Earthquake, so be it. I'll be able to go into my other things later on to handle a Dragon Dance set. And here I opt to go for the Toxic. And putting this thing on a timer, now seeing that it's Hyper Voice, seeing that it's most likely defensive, is going to be really, really crucial. But I'm also toxicking it to scout for the potential Heal Bell. Heal Bell is a potential bring on the set, seeing that I do bring Toxic a lot in playoffs, given that George and I just basically throw Toxic on everything in our team prep. He realized this. He did come prepared with the Heal Bell, and even though that sucks, it does give me really, really valuable information at this point in time. Now here he goes into his Snorlax, and Snorlax is an issue and a half. Snorlax scares the bejesus out of me. Thankfully, I do get a burn on it with my Sacred Fire, and Body Slam's going to do absolutely nothing. It is a 50% chance burn, so it is what it is. But he does get a Paralysis in return. Probably makes up completely for that Aqua Tail crit or anything along those lines. He does recycle. I predict him to be recycling, and I go for the Roar. So this is going to bring in Scissor, which is going to be great for me. There's no world in which he's ever going to try and stay in. He'll definitely switch out, and it will allow me to get another Roar off in this situation. There's obviously no chance that he is going to be staying in and dealing with that. Now, I do go for Sacred Fire just in case. I said I would Roar, but I didn't want to play any games, and I knew that he was just going to sort of recycle spam on me. And I figure now that he's burned, this is a perfect opportunity to try and knock off this Snorlax. But he's smarter than that. He knows that a knockoff is coming. I have already revealed it. And I am able to just go into Entei on this Rotom here. Gotta think about playing the long game. If you were asking me, you know, 6 months ago if I would be playing this sort of stally long game, I would say you're crazy. But this is the best way I could have dealt with Troy's team, and I have to step outside my comfort zone and deal with this like this. So, he does go into Credilli. Now, Credilli's a threat, particularly because it completely walls my Suicune. So, putting a Toxic on this Credilli is going to be really crucial in the sense that it's going to make it so Suicune can actually probably stall this thing out with Rest in an endgame scenario in which he's sort of just keeping this in to handle all of my Scalds. So I'm able to go into Scissor here. I don't think he's going to be carrying HP Fire, and I am just going to be able to get a knockoff on this Rotom. And he has revealed Pain Split, I should have mentioned. He has revealed Pain Split, I should mention, which makes handling this a lot harder. I expected it to be Defog of some sort instead of Pain Split, which is going to make it really hard for Scissor to be breaking this thing, for other mons to be breaking this thing, because Pain Split is obviously doing a lot of work. So here, I make somewhat of a misplay that sort of fucks me over, and I go into Roserade expecting him to Volt Switch. I didn't expect him to overheat straight up, seeing that I have been going into Entei every time on this. But he does just go for the overheat and kills my Roserade. And even though this does suck that I'm down a Mon, it's not the worst case scenario because, you know, Altaria's not Dragon Dance, so it's not going to be taking a ton from Sludge Bomb, and I can't really touch any of his other 4 Mons anyways, especially given the fact that Manaphy didn't come. So Roserade was my most expendable Mon, which did sort of incentivize me to make that risky play in the first place. Is what it is. We're 5-5, but we still have a Spike Up. We're still handling ourselves pretty decently. We're going to see how the rest of the game goes. So I do go into my Garchomp here, and I set up a layer of Stealth Rock. Seeing that he hasn't been defogging yet makes me think that he might just not be defog, which would be really, really nice, as he does just go for the Toxic here. Now, I go for a Swords Dance, and this is sort of where I'm honestly not playing the game super well. I'm not playing the game super well at this point, and it's because I'm sort of jumping to conclusions here, making assumptions about what different sets are, sort of assuming that a +2 Earthquake takes out Altaria, which if it's max defense, it doesn't. But also on top of that, making some misplay in the sense that he still has pretty strong ways to work around Garchomp. In a world in which I'm setting up on Scissor, in a world in which I'm setting up on Credilli, I could have really just had this game so much more effectively. But I really was sort of rushing myself and not playing the long game, not playing the game in which I'm trying to get the Garchomp in the cleanest way possible, and I'm going to pay for this as he makes some doubles that allow me to take toxic damage. Now here, I sat here for a long time thinking if he'd go Rotom again or anything like that. I think that some might call this a 50-50, but the reason I clicked Earthquake was because I think I read Troy in the sense that he needs Rotom way more than he needs Credilli. So I don't think he's going to risk Rotom on some silly toxic damage that's going to make me whittled anyway. To me, it's whatever. So I figured he was going to stay in because Credilli was much more expendable for him than Rotom was, and I was correct in that assessment. So I could stay in, just take the Bullet Punch, but Entei is such a free switch that I ultimately opt to just switch out. He has to Bullet Punch. There's no world in which he doesn't, and Entei is going to be able to come in and take that Bullet Punch really effectively. So he does go for the U-turn. Since I am paralyzed, it does sort of suck, but it is A-okay. Now here he goes into Snorlax. Definitely sucks that he keeps getting this berry up, and I am going to be able to Roar, though, which is going to help out a lot. And getting this Altaria in this range is going to be really, really useful because it's starting to actually get it in both Bullet Punch range and Spec Psychic range from Azelf. So he is going to be able to Roost on me, which is going to suck, but here I should be able to Roar it out and take more chip on things, but he crits me with the Hyper Voice, which sucks. The crit did matter, which is a little bit annoying, but it is completely okay given the Aqua Tail crit, given the Sacred Fire burn on Snorlax, etc. He does opt to Heal Bell, which is going to heal the burn on Snorlax. When he did that, I said, oh shit, I'm fucked. So I was really, really nervous at this point. Thankfully, he still has to recycle the Aya Papa Berry at this point in time, and I am going to be able to just scald this thing. Fishing for another burn. Unfortunately, I do not get that burn, and I do opt to get a second Calm Mind up as he does opt to recycle again. Now, the choice to recycle again was obviously a smart one by him, and he does choose to Whirlwind me out here, which was a complete shock. At this point in time, I thought Suicune had sweeping power at this point in the game. I thought that, you know, that was it. Like, Suicune had a pretty decent shot to sweep in a world in which he wasn't Whirlwind, because honestly, after +2, none of his mons touched me. So Whirlwind was really, really great by him there, and honestly scared him. It made me start to have to reevaluate my endgame situation. And even though Azelf is ideally supposed to be the endgame, its endgame is looking bleaker and bleaker, especially because Scizor, he hasn't been bringing in as much as I would have hoped. Altaria is defensive. It's going to be taking Psychics really well. And Snorlax's ability just to constantly recycle Berry is going to suck. So I now sort of have to shift my endgame situation from one where Azelf is cleaning with Spec Psychic to one where Azelf is getting certain things in range of either Suicune or Mega Scizor to end up sweeping in the endgame. Now, I still think this can be Suicune. I still think Suicune is a viable endgame situation because it sets up on both Altaria, both Scizor, and worst case scenario, if both Azelf and Scizor go down, it sets up on Snorlax as well because you can't be Whirlwinded if it's the only mon left. So I'm not too concerned, and I know that I'm going to be forcing this thing out with Mega Scizor, because at this point, it's pretty clear to me he doesn't have Fire Punch, but in case he does, I do have to Curse. I do have to Curse at this point in time, as he does recycle in the endgame. So, this is a huge, huge, huge moment in the game. I am scared of this Rotom. This Rotom is going to really beat the rest of my team, and it's very clear at this point in the game I'm on the back foot. I really, really, really cannot do much at this point because a lot of his defense is going to be handling what I have brought pretty well. So I'm going to have to start making predictions. I'm just going to start out to playing this game a lot more riskier and a lot more scarier. And at this point in the live com, I said, look, if I want to be PEBA champion, if I want to win this, I have to start making plays. The only huge play I've made so far is the double predicting Credillion. That's nothing. He's made most of the predictions so far. And I have to make a great play if I want to bring this game back in my favor. The momentum is all in Troy's field right now. I have to bring this back in my favor. And I think about this. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about this. I go, okay. He does not want me. He has to overheat here if he wants to KO my Scizor. But I think that he thinks that a Suicune switch is pretty obvious. And it honestly probably sets up a Calm Mind in a world in which he overheats. And if I can get to +2 with Suicune, he doesn't have the berry up on his Snorlax right now. So it's actually gonna, if he overheats and I go Suicune, and you know he has a lowered special attack, so I can set up a Calm Mind, and he goes Snorlax, there's a substantial risk I can kill it with a Scald pretty well. Especially given that he has to constantly, especially given that he doesn't have his berry right now. And I know that he's thinking this. I know that he knows that Suicune very obviously has been my endgame situation. I think that he might think that it's the best option here. And I'm trying to think through the mind of Troy. Troy is someone who plays in a way that he doesn't like to take a bunch of huge risks. He likes to search for the middle ground from what I've seen. And I'm trying to think, what is Troy's middle ground play here? Does he just hit Overheat and allow a potential nasty plot Azelf to just win the rest of the game? Does he hit Overheat and allow a Calm Mind Suicune to gain momentum? I don't think so. I think he clicks Pain Split here, because even if he's right that, because if he's right that I switch in Suicune, it's going to completely end Suicune. It's going to, Pain Split, if I switch into Suicune, wins him the game. And I think that's something he wants to shoot for. That's something I'm predicting him to go for. And I think that his thought process is, if I pain split and Aquarius stays in with Scissor, which in his mind might seem unlikely because, you know, he might think that I don't want to die to an overheat. In that situation, he might just pain split, and if it doesn't work out, he could just overheat the next turn. And I'm going to have to predict him to pain split at this point. I think that's what he's doing. I'm trying to think through the mind of Troy. And holy fucking shit, I get the play right, and I'm able to knock off and put this thing in range of a bullet punch. And that is amazing. It does die, and all of the sudden, Scissor, Curse Scissor, I've never brought this up before, has absolutely annihilated this Rotom. How often do you see a Mega Scissor counter a Rotom, or not counter, but like beat a Rotom Heat? Super cool. I had to make that prediction, and this is where the game shifts. I've been on the back foot. I need to play it better. And here, I'm just looking at this and going, okay. Suicune should have this. With Rotom gone, there's not much outside of Whirlwind Snorlax that's beating Calm Mind Suicune. So, I'm going to go into Azelf here and put this thing in range of a... and put anything in range of a Psychic. He can't switch in Snorlax because it'll die to 2 Psychics. And this is going to put Altaria in a very unique position, and is going to allow it to be put in Bullet Punch range, which is going to be huge. And in this situation, he does not want to switch into anything else. He just wants to take the Bullet Punch and die. It's basically that play is basically forcing him to sack Altaria, which in my opinion is huge. So he goes into Pringles the Snorlax, get his Iapapa Berry up, and I'm going to be able to Roost. And I was hoping, praying he wasn't Fire Punch, and he reveals Belly Drum, and my heart sinks. Because I'm thinking, I don't know, because there's a chance maybe Bullet Punch can take this thing out, but if, you know, I'm petrified because now Snorlax is dealing the damage that is taking out Suicune. My game plan at this point is Suicune. Suicune wins the end game, and that was all it was. And now I'm looking at this Snorlax and going, I can't set up on Snorlax anymore. Like, that's it. So all of a sudden, my game plan in the very tail end of the game has to be shifted from Calm Mind Suicune to Curse Scissor being my endgame situation. Now, thankfully, him having Belly Drum means that he does not have Fire Punch. However, this also means that I tried just Bullet Punch here to get a crit. It doesn't end up working. He does just end up recycling. I hoped he choked and just would attack me or anything like that. Didn't end up working out. And here I go, all right. If I'm going to beat this Snorlax, I'm going to start cursing. and I'm going to force him to Whirlwind. And what that's going to do is, if he Whirlwinds me out, which he'll have to do because it's still like a +5 body slam is going to be doing a ton to defensive Mega Scissor, especially with Curse. If he's Whirlwinding, it's going to allow me to get in Suicune, potentially get a burn. He can't heal Bella Burn off anymore. And that's going to allow Scissor to potentially come in a lot more clutch with a Curse set. So, I do Curse, and he does just Body Slam straight up. It does 27%, which is scary. A crit will be horrifying. A crit will literally... I think a crit will do about half, so I got to keep that in mind. And continually keep cursing up. Now, here he Whirlwinds. Now, the reason I cursed up was to scare him. I wanted him to Whirlwind. I wanted a free switch into Suicune. I didn't want to make that double myself. I didn't want to do anything like that. I wanted to be able to get Suicune in for free by him Whirlwinding so I can potentially burn him, and that's what I'm going to do. He doesn't want to recycle here, I don't think, because it's just going to give me another opportunity for a Scald Burn. Unfortunately, I don't get that Scald Burn, and he does Body Slam me. But this is okay, because now Scissor is the only mon left. I cannot be Whirlwinded. His Whirlwind answer does not beat me. I can curse freely. There is nothing he can do to beat this. There's a few things that can happen. One is that he paralyzes me, and he parahaxes me, and it sucks. Two is that he gets me in range of a regular Scissor's HP Fire. Scissor has barely come out this entire game. I have no clue if it is HP Fire or not, but it's scaring the absolute shit out of me. The other thing he can do is crit me. I'm honestly just, my fingers are crossed. I'm praying, I'm hoping he does get the para at this point, and I'm just petrified. I have to, you know, play this the long game. I have to keep cursing up. I have to get as high curse as possible so that, one, knockoff is taking out this scissor, even if it's defensive, and two, so that I'm not in range of an HP Fire, and three, so that I'm taking less and less damage from bullet punch, or less and less damage from body slam. Now, Snorlax is bulky, which means I'm gonna have to get really, really high up in my curses, but he does end up recycling, and I do end up cursing, and I have to think about this. I go, all right, I think my best play is probably to roost here, because if I roost here, it's going to maximize my odds against HP Fire Scissor, and after a curse, this next bullet punch should be taking out this Snorlax. So he does go for the body slam. I do go for the knockoff. Sorry, the knockoff. Bullet punch, knockoff. I don't think it would have made a difference. I think I go for the knockoff in case he wants to double into Scissor. I actually don't know why I went for the knockoff. Maybe bullet punch was a tiny roll or something like that. Didn't want to risk it. But he does go into Scissor. And I am able to knock off him roosting and not HP firing. Basically confirms to me that he is not HP Fire. And I am petrified. I'm shaking. I'm shocked. My reaction is literally like, did I actually just win PEBA? Did I actually just beat Troy? Is this actually happening? He goes for the bullet punch. It's clear he doesn't have HP Fire. I get fully paralyzed, which is hilarious. He goes for the bullet punch again. Am I going to be able to take out the Scissor? No, because I'm fully paralyzed again. But this third time, 3 times the charm, Mega Scissor, my round 2 pick, the pick that I paired with Mega Garchomp, Curse Mega Scissor, brought for the first time in this entire game, is going to give me the PEBA Championship, and oh my god, I am so thankful. I am so happy. I'm so thankful. I'm crying. I am thrilled. I'm so happy. Thank you to every single person who helped me win this championship. Seriously, this means so, so much to me. It is honestly such a blessing to be a part of such an amazing community with so many amazing people, and here's to many more leagues to come. Mega Scissor, showing why it's one of my favorite Megas, why it's captured my heart, and honestly, it's a testament to how great of a Pokemon Scissor is that both Scissors were in the finals. Obviously, Troy and I both love Scissor. He's the one who actually introduced me to loving Mega Scissor, and it did actually come back to bite him. The one he suggested me picking up Mega Scissor. I picked up Mega Scissor, and it ended up beating him in finals. So a little bit of a fun game against Troy. Complete revenge for ABC. This is a perfect season of PEBA. I, for the first time, gone undefeated in a season and have won the league in the end. I can't believe it happened. 62 turns. Probably one of the longest games I've played under the since coming back to Draft League. Probably the longest game I played outside of the Drampa sweep in Owl. Honestly, such an amazing feeling. Thank you so much to Austin and George for helping me build this team. If he was not helping me out, I would not have this championship. And it means just so much to me. I have been working my ass off to win this league, and I am so happy I set out to do it, and I set up to win it, and here's to many more awesome games to come. It honestly feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I don't feel this constant need to have to prove myself, or this constant need to have to, you know, prove to people that I think that I have potential or things like that. So it's honestly just such a good feeling. You know, going into other leagues, the GUU, the Owl, I'm here to just play Pokemon and have fun. I don't feel like I have much of a competitive burden anymore because I've done what I wanted to do. I won a league. I showed dominance. I did what I wanted to do. And, you know, at this point, I think I have the skill to back up, you know, to just enjoy the games. So this was a great feeling. I'm very happy. Thank you to everyone in PEBA who helped me out. Honestly, thank you. Really. This means a lot to me. I'm not going to ramble for too long. The GUU is an amazing Wi-Fi league that is coming up. It is infinitely harder than PEBA, let me tell you. Like, everyone in this league is so good. Plus, I'm getting used to Wi-Fi. Plus, I'm getting used to Ubers. Plus, I'm getting used to the level 50 format. Plus, I'm getting used to a bunch of new players, a whole new team. It's honestly just amazing. So, a lot more fun shit on the channel now. We're going to start getting a Wi-Fi league, and it's going to be so, so much fun. We're just going to be having a lot of fun in the GUU. A lot less fearful and competitive, a lot less jittery than I normally am, because I'm just here to have fun at this point. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching.